Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, May 28th. And we are going to jump right back into our book from yesterday called Monsoon Afternoon, which rhymes. Um, but before we get started, I hope you all are wearing your fun hats or accessories, and you guys are enjoying the ABC countdown videos or parts of the video for morning motivation because those are super duper fun. Remember, if you have a hat or accessory that you want to show off, make sure that you text pictures to your teacher or Miss Hammond, and you might be featured in a morning motivation video. All right, so because today we are reading the second half of the book, I thought that it would be great to recap or go back to the first half of the book to go over what exactly happened. So, the first question on your sheet of paper is what happened in the first half of the story? Now, the book's not very long, so we should be able to kind of sum it up pretty easily. So, I'm going to go back to this slideshow, and this is the whole first half of the book. So I'm going to scroll through the pages to remind us what happened in the first half of the book, and then you're going to write down a few sentences, and we will go over it together. Go ahead. There we go. It's big, you can see it. All right, so that was the first half of the book. So take about 30 seconds now to write down what happened in the first half of the book. It's kind of like half of a retell. So write down in your own words, just briefly, what happened at the beginning of the story. Go ahead. All right, so at the beginning, we see that there is a monsoon or there's a rainstorm that's about to happen. And oh my goodness, what happened? Oh no, oh no, go back. There we go. Phew. We got it figured out, guys. Don't worry. All right. So at the beginning, we see this little boy stretching towards the sky, and the dogs and the cows and the ants are all going away. They're finding some place to hide because there's a monsoon coming. So at the beginning of the story, monsoon starts. Starts a month. The rainstorm starts. The rain starts dropping down, and the little boy gets very excited, and he asks his family members if they want to play with him outside in the rain. So first we've got mom, and then dad or papa, his brother Jai, and then the dodgy is actually the one who ends up playing outside with him. And the dodgy remember, he already asked his father, so Dodgy is not his father. It's actually his grandfather. So we got Dodgy and the little boy are playing out in the rain, and then they go on a walk after the rain stops. So what happened at the beginning of the story? The monsoon started. The little boy wanted to play outside. He asked every member of his family, um, and they each time they said no. But then his grandfather, Dodgy, um, decided to play outside with the little boy, and now they're going on a walk now that the monsoon is over. So that's what happened at the beginning of the story. And we can actually answer the next question on your sheet as well. Who is the dodgy? Now, a couple of us were really confused about this in our exit tickets from yesterday. A lot of us thought that Dodgy was the boy's father. Um, and we know that that's not true because he calls his father Papa. So he asks Papa, "Will you come out?" "Not now, I have to finish the story," he said, scribbling in his notepad. So if Papa has to finish scribbling in his notepad or finish his story, then he's not going to go outside and play with him. Um, and that's how we know that Dadaji is his grandfather. Because look at him, he's not his brother either. Because number one, the little boy already asked his brother, and number two, Dadaji looks a little bit too old to be the little boy's brother. So the correct answer is A. Dadaji is the boy's grandfather. So we've got the first two questions answered, and now we're going to read the second half of the story. All right. "Look how shiny the leaves of the banyan tree are now," I said, picking up a wet fallen leaf. "They are," Dadaji said, smiling. "Do you want to swing?" He lifted me up. I grabbed the roots of the banyan tree and swung back and forth. Then he lifted me onto his shoulders. "Dadaji, did you ever swing on this banyan tree?" "Oh, yes, very often," he said. I tried to imagine Dadaji swinging on the banyan tree. I tried to imagine him as small as me, sitting on his Dadaji's shoulders. "Did Monsoon come when you were little?" I asked. "Of course. Monsoon came every year when I was little, just like it does now." So every year, this monsoon happens, but it only happens probably like once or twice a year. So that's why this little boy is so excited about this big storm. "Did peacocks dance in the rain and did ants disappear when you were little?" Dadaji nodded. "They always did." "Will Monsoon come when I become a Dadaji?" "Yes, it will," Dadaji replied. We picked the last few mangoes from the mango tree. Dadima opened the door and called, "Come in and put on dry clothes this instant before you both catch cold." Dadaji and I give Dadima all the mangoes and hurried to our rooms to change. When we came out, Dadima was standing by the door with her hand on her hip. "Look at the mud you two have tracked in," she scolded. "Who do you think is going to clean this mess?" "We are," Dadaji and I said together. Now look how similar these two look. Now, they are very different ages and very different sizes, but they look pretty similar. They have similar mannerisms. It's the way kind of you move your body and you talk. So, the little boy and his Dadaji are kind of like doing the same things because they have a lot of similarities. They're drying their heads off in the same way. They're kind of scratching their head and looking a little guilty that they tracked mud into the house similarly. And this is important to notice because this is going to help us into the next into our exit ticket today. So they say that they are going to clean up the mud on the ground. I grabbed a rag and Dadaji picked up a pail. "Did your Dadima scold you and make you clean up?" I whispered to Dadaji. "She sure did," Dadaji answered. So Dadima means grandma. Dadima came back with 3 steaming cups of tea. The smell of ginger and cinnamon filled the air. "What are you two talking about?" she asked. Dadaji and I scrubbed the floor extra hard. Nothing, we replied. Nothing at all. So they seem very, very pleased to be sharing this little secret between the two of them. And I bet a lot of you guys have this relationship with maybe a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, or maybe a parent or a sibling where you have like a secret special relationship, just the two of you. All right, so that is the end of the story. We've already answered this question. So the next question is, who is the boy in the brown illustrations? We've got two brown illustrations here. We've got this one and this one. Do you have any more? No. So who is that boy in the brown illustrations? Take about 30 seconds to answer that question and write it down. Go ahead. All right, so to figure out who this boy is, let's read the text around these pictures. That'll give us a better idea of who this little boy is. So let's start over here. Dodgy, did you ever swing on this banyan tree? Oh, yes, very often, he said. I tried to imagine Dodgy swinging on the banyan tree. I tried to imagine him as small as me, sitting on his Dodgy's shoulders. Did Monsoon come when you were little? I asked. Of course, Monsoon came every year when I was little, just like it does now. So this little boy is asking his Dodgy, um, what he did when he was little. And the little boy is trying to imagine his Dodgy as a little boy. So that makes me think that this illustration is showing what's happening in the little boy's imagination. So this is him imagining his grandfather or his Dodgy as a little boy. So let's go on to the next page to see if our the text on the next page supports our idea. So here's another brown illustration. Did peacocks dance in the rain and did ants disappear when you were little? The dodgy nodded. They always did. So on this page, they're still talking about what happened when Dodgy was little. So this little boy is actually Dodgy when he was little. So the answer to the third question, who is the boy in the brown illustrations? That little boy is Dodgy when he was little. And then this over here is the little boy imagining himself as a Dodgy or a grandfather. All right, the next question is a true or false question. So I'm going to say a statement and you have to tell me whether that is true or false and how you know. All right, true or false? The Dodgy used to swing on the same banyan tree as the little boy is now. All right, so let's go back to that banyan tree. The answer is going to be somewhere on this page because this is the page with the banyan tree on it. So see if you can find the text evidence to support your answer to that question. Is that statement true or false? The Dodgy used to swing on the same banyan tree as the little boy is now. Go ahead. All right, true or false? Dodgy used to swing on the same banyan tree as the little boy is now. So we saw in the illustration beforehand that Dodgy was helping a little boy to swing on the banyan tree. So this is the same tree in this picture as well. So let's read this text. Dodgy, did you ever swing on this banyan tree? Oh yes, very often, he said. I tried to imagine Dodgy swinging on the banyan tree. I tried to imagine him as small as me sitting on his Dodgy's shoulders. So the text evidence is actually right here. Dodgy, did you ever swing on this banyan tree? Oh, yes, very often, he said. So the statement is true that Dodgy used to swing on the same banyan tree that the little boy is now. And we know this because Dodgy says so. He says, oh, yes, very often. So the answer is true. All right, my friends, let's move on to the exit ticket. The exit ticket today is asking you, how are the little boy and Dodgy similar? How do you know? Write about 3 different ways that the little boy and Dodgy are similar. Be sure to use details from the text to support your answer. Make sure that you write at least 4 sentences. So you should have 4 capital letters at the beginnings of your sentences and 4 periods or exclamation points in your response. At least. You can always have more. Um, but the minimum or the least number of sentences or the smallest number of sentences you can write is 4. All right, so how are the little boy and Dodgy similar? So we see what they like to do at the same age over here. So the little boy is swinging over here, and Dodgy used to swing as a little boy on the banyan tree as well. So that's one similarity. Your job is to find 2 more similarities. That means something that the boy and Dodgy do that are very close to being the same. So they both saw peacocks dance. They swang from the banyan tree. And we even see them acting kind of the same in these 2 illustrations right here. So there are lots of similarities in between the Dodgy and the little boy in this book. You have to pick 3 and write about. And be sure to use complete sentences and evidence from the text. All right, my friends, awesome job today. Remember, if you have any questions at all, reach out to your teacher and we will be happy to help. Also, remember the links to the distance learning folder and the folder for today's materials will be in the description below this video. So they should be super easy to find. All right, my friends, I will see you tomorrow for another read aloud. Bye, friends.